IVM.
Can you imagine if you were on Big Boss and like you're stuck in this room with like a few people only from the industry, I suppose.
Okay.
And your roommate was a dacoit.
I did not expect you to go there with that. Let's set some context here. I feel like that's important in case it's the first time you're listening to our podcast, and that's a shame. Back and don't listen to the look back episode. Go back and listen to the fun stuff. But what we're referring to is Seema Parihar, who's one of the people that we covered in season 1. She was a dacoit, and eventually she surrendered to the police. A whole bunch of drama happened, and then she wanted to appear on Big Boss sometime in 2010. There's a whole bunch of legal drama around that too. The courts were like, hey, you can go, maybe you can't go, I don't know yet. And then finally they let her get on the show. And that's how she ended up on Big Boss.
Yeah, and she was kicked out in like 11 weeks, which is just shy of a 4-week deadline, which is pretty awesome.
Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime? Well, we're here to tell you. There's misconduct all the time. Women are thieves and murderers.
That's gross misconduct.
Con artists, money launderers.
Criminal misconduct.
Financial fraud that's hard to track.
Takes some planning, but still misconduct.
Even breaching a contract.
Well, that's more civil though.
It's misconduct. Misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck. Things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, and welcome to Misconduct. We are a podcast that talks about criminal women, usually Indian. That's what we are. I am Raghavi.
And my name is Nisha. So today's episode is going to be slightly different. We're doing a look back to share a couple of updates on all of the people that we spoke about in season 1. Maybe do a couple of shout outs, talk about the people who helped make Misconduct more popular. And yeah, we just wanted to go through season 1 from the outside.
That's a very cool way of putting it. Also, guys, this is a look back episode, but this is still remains a true crime podcast.
Yep.
So, of course, children should not be listening to this. Please just take your children away right now. Go. And, adults also, please exercise your discretion. And that's really it. That's our disclaimer. Please listen to us.
Also, if you hadn't already heard or seen from all of our reels and posts that we put out on Instagram while this happened, we were nominated for Asia Podcast Festival under the category of Best Podcast in the Arts, Society and Culture category.
Yay.
It was awesome. We did not win, but we were in the finalists, which was such an honor. And it was something we weren't expecting to get nominated at all. We weren't expecting to be in the finals. So it was really, really cool considering that we just started out. So
That's true. We're not even a year old.
Yeah.
It was just sheer audacity with which we sent in our entries. And then they were like, we will reward your audacity with the nomination.
Yay!
And we said, okay, give me.
Actually, I think it'll be kind of cute to think about because, right, it's December 22nd. And it's kind of been almost 2 years since we came up with the idea.
That's true. It really is.
Yeah, it was a Christmas dinner / feminist agenda meeting, which brought this up. So
I don't know why that we ever consider those two as like themes that will work together. It's just us yelling in anger while also drunk.
Just vehemently agreeing with each other.
Yeah, we're like, yeah, you are right. And then this just goes back and forth over and over until finally one day we are like, oh, should we pilot this in our podcast?
Yeah, and I think that's the birth of our concept, and that's when we started talking about Cyanide Mallika. So let's start with her.
So we know Cyanide Mallika, hopefully you know Cyanide Mallika by now, as India's first convicted female serial killer. That's a lot of words.
Yes.
Which is also exactly what we said in our first episode. Mallika was from Karnataka. Mallika's modus operandi was that she would befriend these women that she kind of knew were not really in a good place in their lives. And she'd promise them, like a cure or some sort of relief for whatever they wanted. It could be everything from somebody wanting like a male child, to getting over an illness, just a bunch of things like that. And a lot of these women would trust her and, let her take them to far off temples, to off prayers and stuff. And before they realized it, they'd be locked up in a room and she would force cyanide laced food, or temple offerings into their mouth. Cyanide, as you know, works way quicker than you can comprehend it.
Yeah.
And they would be dead within minutes, and then she would drop them. So in 2007, between October and December, she's believed to have killed 6 women, at least 6 women. In early 2008, Karnataka police did some solid work and they were able to catch her. They found everything that she stole, including a mobile phone where its location was turned on. And that's when we realized she is not really seasoned that way because she did not cover her tracks.
Yeah.
The courts initially ruled that she should be issued the death penalty. Eventually, that was commuted to life imprisonment. And she spent some time. Well, she is going to be spending a lot of time at Bangalore jail, where she was friends with V.K. Shashikala. Yeah, that was it. It was a long summary. But
It was.
yeah,
It was. But it was also a very long episode, so that's fine.
that's true.
So updates. There's not really much update. She's spending her life in prison, rotting away.
Yeah.
I guess justice, that's how it works. But recently what we did see was that there's a nutshell video done with featuring Andre Borges. And it's not better than our episode, but like... but
Oh, man. We are still riding high on that nomination. That's why. That's why we're saying shit like this. Don't deserve to be this way. But no, you know what? So it's not really an update that I have. But when we put the episode, a lot of people told us, hey, we knew about Malika. We've heard of her. Our parents have heard of her, etc.
cool.
But one person wrote to me about someone that they know
Huh.
who may have also known someone. It's a long chain, okay? So we don't really know how true this is. And they said that Malika may have worked with their family.
Whoa.
So, yeah. So that whole period when she was a domestic worker in Bangalore, she apparently worked with this family. They found her like, she worked all right, but they found her a little odd. They weren't sure if her personality was just like that or something was up. I don't think they really suspected much.
Okay.
But then much later, she just sort of disappeared from the house and everybody was like, okay, I mean, okay, what to do? She's gone. And then about a couple of years later, they found out she was arrested.
Damn.
Yep.
When this episode came out, one of my friends also told me about a woman that she knew in her office who was like overtly friendly,
Okay.
but always gave like these weird vibes. And much later on, they found out that this woman was actually like luring people, her friends, on vacations, on night outs, and then
Okay.
just straight up sex trafficking them.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. By
That's
the way,
awful. Was she caught?
no, well, she was caught, but then she escaped jail. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
I think
Okay.
it's just the moral of the story is some people give out bad vibes. Listen to your gut and your intuition.
That's fair. That's what they tell kids too,
Yeah.
Listen to your gut. But also, dude, that's genuinely, that's
Right?
scary, especially somebody you work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really hectic. Oh, God, this has really grossed me out. Now, let's talk about Rukhsana instead.
I suppose. Well, Rukhsana Sultana was a former old Delhi socialite who was briefly married to a general of the Indian Army. She climbed the social ladder. She was just so determined to climb that social ladder by hook or crook. She became ice cream buddies with Sanjay Gandhi. We debated about that quite a bit, wondering what the hell that
We
was.
did, yeah.
She also joined his elite squad to forcefully sterilize thousands of men during the emergency, which was happening around 1975. Almost 11 million Indians were forcefully sterilized during the emergency.
Yeah.
And Rukhsana herself was responsible for about 13,000 of these forced vasectomies. Almost all of them were on Muslim men within the old walled city. And there was a particular place that was for it. It was called the Dojana House. And this is where most of the issues came up.
Yeah.
Also, Rukhsana Sultana is the grandmother of Sara Ali Khan.
Yep.
And we mentioned this on our episode. We said that she had put up this Instagram post on Mother's Day thanking Rukhsana, saying, "Thank you, Meri maa ki maa," or something like that.
Yeah.
Not naming names, but to everyone who commented on that post and tried to cyberbully her to take
Yeah.
it down. Not cool, guys.
But actually, I don't know how many of those cyberbully incidents were because they listened to this episode or because they just knew about Rukhsana. Because to be fair, people know
Maybe.
about her. She's not
Yeah.
that much of like, she's not particularly well hidden as a concept. In fact, I think she was very actively, flaunting it, her position, with
That's
Sanjay
true.
Gandhi. The fact that she said, we quoted this in our episode as well. She just outrightly said, no injustices were done
Yeah.
in Delhi. What you talking about, boy?
There were no excesses.
That's exactly right. Somehow worse when it's like that. I prefer the what you talking about, boy.
Yeah, actually,
Mhm.
I think this was our first comments on our YouTube page, which is
Yeah.
from Asif Sufi. Shout out to you. This is from like 3 months ago, but thank you.
Yeah.
He said, very well presented, liked it a lot. We were just like, oh my God, somebody likes us.
Yeah.
And we
we're
didn't
fluid.
even pay them.
Yeah, all our friends have to, because
Yeah.
by virtue of our friendship, what else they're going to be friends with other people? No. But this
Yeah.
this is someone we didn't pay or force our friendship on, and they
Yeah.
said they liked it.
It was awesome. But an update on, well, not technically an update on Ruxana, just something that we couldn't include into the episode because it went on forever.
Yeah.
Ruxana did not act alone. We
Mhm.
focused on her because she was the woman.
Yeah.
But truly, Sanjay Gandhi commissioned the sterilization program to 4 of his friends. And
Mhm.
we had aptly dubbed them as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, if you will.
That was a great joke that we had to let go because the episode was just too long.
Yes, yes. But we do invite you all to go read up more about this. You
Mhm.
can, the 4 of them were named Lieutenant Governor Kishan Chand,
Mhm.
Naveen Chawla,
Mhm.
Vidyaben Shah, and
Yep.
of course, Ruxana Sultana.
Yep, that's right. And we did see a couple of articles. There was an India Today article that said Ruxana was trying to like give back to society, and
Hey.
she was working with like kids who have leprosy and stuff. But this was less of an article and read more like a listicle. So we don't really count that as a source, and there are no other sources to really confirm this. And realistically, from what we know about her personality, I would say please take this
There's
with a
no-
giant pinch of salt.
Yeah, man.
She used to put perfume on her handkerchief, because
Yeah,
she didn't
she
like how Delhi smelled.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
yeah.
this woman working with children with leprosy? Shut
that
up.
person? No way.
No way. Unless she was touching them with like tongs or something. Because
Oh God, that's
she's
somehow
that kind of a
worse.
person. Yeah, but like you're not surprised also.
Yeah, I suppose.
But I think the third episode was Zoya Khan.
Mm-hmm.
Zoya Khan was a fun one.
Oh man, it
Yeah.
was so much fun.
That was peak
just-
keke peke is what that was. So Zoya Khan was a seasoned con woman who faked being an IFS officer for almost 2 years, and she duped the Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida, Meerut, and so many other police stations in that area. She did this partly with her husband, but really she was the IFS officer in her head. She pretended to be working with the UN on diplomatic missions for India and also for the US. Because that's how it works, apparently. And also, she was having a great time. Things were going really well for her till the senior superintendent of police, Vaibhav Krishna, just answered one of her calls once. Just got pissed off by how arrogant she was when she was throwing instructions at him. And he was like, wait, who is she? And he went and investigated, and he was like, bro, she's a cheat.
Scam.
And that's how she got pulled down.
Yes. Very sad, very sad. But there was one of the things that we found extremely entertaining was that all of the emails that she sent was from this website called United Nations Security Council.org.
Yeah. That's
Like, who believes this, first of all? But
Dude, you know what? Whenever you have to say out your email address, especially if you're like on a customer care call or something, and you have to spell it out, okay,
Oh,
and then tack on a number at the end, and then and then very embarrassed say at yahoo.com. When you do that, the thing is, even then, all you're hoping is, I hope this email is just as short as possible that it can go out as.
yeah.
But this woman clearly would have had an email address that said, I'm assuming Zoya Khan.
Zoya.Khan.
Sure. At UnitedNationsSecurityCouncil.org. What is that? That is not even efficient. Not that she was looking for efficiency, but
Of course, I'm sure
Yeah.
the other person will be like, is it United Nations Security or Nations Security? Because there's like a double S problem there.
Madam, can you spell that? U for umbrella, N for no. They just go on.
Yeah. During the episode, Raghavi had looked up the domain
Mhm.
and it was about like 10,000 rupees. We wanted to buy it for giggles, but
Yeah.
10,000 for giggles and all. Who are we? Jeff Bezos? No.
Oh, fair.
So, but it was supposed to expire in September, but it's still taken apparently. And GoDaddy will give you a broker for 7,000 rupees to negotiate a deal with the owner and get you the domain name. So if anyone is interested,
If you have screw you money, please buy it for us.
alternatively, if we have 7K listeners and all of you give us one rupee only, we will buy it.
That is true. Come, let's start a Patreon. Nobody gets any benefits, but we get a domain. And
Yes.
it's funny. And that's the end of that.
No, we can give email IDs to everyone.
Yeah, we could do that too. Wow. Yes. No, that's actually much more expensive. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I'll have to. It's really expensive to maintain emails. But another thing that we found out is when we were talking about this episode, we mentioned this word in Tamil, which is Adiga Prasangi, which is when you don't have to do a thing, but you do it and, with just confidence and arrogance.
Yes.
That really is. I'm not describing it well, okay? If you know someone who's Tamil or South Indian,
Yes.
just ask them about this and they will make that face that's like, oh, Adhika Prasangi. But we found out a lot of people wrote into us to say it's not just a Tamil word, it is a very South Indian word, It's a very common phrase to use in Kerala, Karnataka, and Andhra
Yeah.
Pradesh as well. And we were like, wow, what a solid thing to unite us.
Yes, all South Indian moms got together in one conference and they were like, our shitty children, what do we call them? Adiga Prasangi.
Yeah. They just were like frothing in the mouth. They signed a treaty for it and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Also, someone else had tried a very similar con that our madam here did. And he had apparently, it's a guy, FYI. Yeah. And it obviously a copycat is all I have to say. He impersonated himself also as an IFS officer. There's a press release about this because the Delhi
Yeah.
police put it out after
Yeah.
they got him. And turns out he cheated a Gujarat-based businessman for about 36 crores.
Oof.
But did he have 4 laptops? Which is what Zoya had.
More importantly, did he have an app on his phone that changed his voice and so that he could pretend to be his own secretary? If the answer is no,
That was hilarious.
then I'm sorry. I swear.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't deserve a press release and all, okay? That was absolutely unnecessary.
You know what is not unnecessary?
What?
These wonderful shows on IVM that advertise on our show. So everyone take a
No.
break and go listen to it.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM podcast. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.
We are back from the break. We were just sort of discussing, so far we've discussed Sanan Malika, Rukhsana Begum, and Zoya Khan.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention.
What?
Wo kaun thi?
Oh my God, it's the thing that started it all.
Yes.
It really is, because I remember when I was initially, like when we spoke about it, and then one day during the pandemic lockdowns, I was like, fine, let's start reading, I guess. And I started looking up Malika. And I was just like, hey, are there enough people that we can cover over the length of, like a podcast?
Yeah.
And I mean, I saw Sana Malika, then I saw Rukhsana. And literally right after that, I saw this article, Wo Kaun Thi?
Oh,
Yeah, as in I just,
yeah, it stuck with me.
Indian criminals, and I just went for it, and this is what I found. And I sent it to Nisha, and she just, I've never seen her
man.
fall in love so hard before.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, Zuko. I get
Zuko.
why he mute, because we're now talking about Shashikala, baby Patankar, also known as Meow Meow.
What?
Yes.
Living that Segway life. Love it.
So, in the 1980s, she came to the scene as a milk vendor in Mumbai. She started dealing with brown sugar first. It is an adulterated form of heroin, not those weird packets that you steal from hotels.
Yes.
She quickly moved on to selling hashish, and finally, she became like the lead distributor for the incredibly addictive drug mephedrone, also
Yep.
known as MCAT. Of course, all of this is alleged because
Yes.
she's never been caught.
Nope.
In the middle of controlling her drug empire.
Oh, sorry. To clarify, she has been caught before, but nobody ever found drugs on her.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a great distinction. She went to jail a bit, sure, but could they prove it in court? Nah.
Slight. Hey, she was quick as a cat.
Why did we not have these jokes in the actual episode?
I have no idea.
Fine.
So, in the middle of controlling her drug empire in Mumbai, she also had a friend/lover who was Constable Dharmaraj Kaloke. She also got tired of him by 2014 and possibly tipped off the police about 120 kgs of MCAT in his house.
Oh no.
Yeah, there was a big raid and a huge case, and it was super like in all over the media. And then, unfortunately, what they found out was that it was actually 120 kilos of Ajinomoto.
Yeah. What a boss, man. That's all I really have to say.
Indeed.
Also, we found out, so we don't have updates, so to speak, really.
Yeah.
Because she has been lying low for a while. We haven't really heard much from her at all after these cases.
Because we had so much fun doing it. Everything was really fun about this episode. But more importantly, it still left us with a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of the biggest things was, how did they carry 120 kilos of Ajinomoto without being detected?
Yeah.
Where did they buy it from? Can you wholesale buy Ajinomoto?
Maybe.
You need a pinch. Even if you're starting a Chinese restaurant, you don't need that much.
Unless you have a sodium dependency. I don't know your life. I mean, it's
Yeah.
possible. I mean, just think about it. Maybe we also know that she was really well connected within Bombay, right?
Yeah.
Even it was very difficult, for example, for the police to ever really arrest her because she always had this network of people that would get her around.
Correct.
And maybe she had a network of people who knew where all the Ajinomoto in Bombay was kept.
Maybe. Or
That's the
maybe she
most.
did the thing where she told 120 people to get 1 kg of Ajinomoto. And they all went one by one and dumped it in his house.
The next woman we'll be talking about is Troy Loco. She, of course, for those who listen to the episode, would know that she's likely India's oldest female serial killer. In a lot of articles, she's compared to Jack the Ripper as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the period setting or, just the fact that we don't know enough about her really, but that's often the moniker that she got in most of the articles were written about her. So Troy Loco was a Bengali sex worker who was convicted of initially swindling and then eventually murdering a number of men all the way back in the late 1800s. So she was actually widowed at a very young age. It is quite a sad story. And she was sort of tricked into sex work, but eventually she sort of made it her own. Like she thrived there. She took on a lover. She adopted his son. So things were going okay. Except I guess after a point she was running out of, clients really. Mostly because of age. That's obviously an issue that they face, right? So when things sort of turned for the worse, she started off with a few harmless cons, like just drugging, her clients and taking money from them, that sort of thing. But then that sort of escalated to like very well pre-planned murders.
Yeah.
So eventually she was tricked by the police and she was caught and she was executed. The thing is, for this particular episode, we really had only one primary source, so to speak. And there's a series of stories written by Inspector Priyanath Mukhopadhyay, who claims that he was covering this case.
Right.
It's all in Bengali, so we had to ask someone to tell us what it meant. His work regarding Troy Loco, though, is also captured in his own book, which is also in Bengali, and it's a true crime, partially fictionalized publication called Darogar Daptar.
Yes. So for this episode, what did we miss? We can't really give you updates on someone who died ages and ages ago. But we do want to say shout out to Kaustav Banerjee because he commented on our YouTube post saying, "Nice podcast. Nisha's Bengali is fab." And I was like, thank you, Kaustav. And I feel like it's it's more rewarding coming from someone who is clearly Bengali.
I know.
So I was like, thanks.
That's awesome. Also, there is going to be a movie.
Oh, yeah.
I tried learning how to pronounce this and I still can't. Nisha, do you want to help me?
I don't think I can do it right after saying Nisha's Bengali is fab. Okay, I think it's
Go for it.
Babu O Barbanita
Oh, okay. Bye.
by Debrati Mukhopadhyay.
Oh, okay. But yes, there's going to be apparently a movie about her.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen? We don't know. The Sairan Malika movie was quite, yeah.
Ooh, yes. So, Madhuri Gupta was a junior diplomat with the Indian High Commission in Islamabad, Pakistan. She was arrested in 2010 for allegedly violating several provisions of the Official Secrets Act of 1923. While she was there in Islamabad, she fell in love with a young officer of the ISI, which is the Inter-Services Intelligence, the premier intelligence agency of Pakistan. She proceeded to pass on many, many classified documents to him. Some of them were just like list of numbers. Some of them were plans of India's hydrothermal projects.
Right.
So there are a lot of documents about India's foreign relations, internal matters. So overall, just bad scene.
Yep.
There were many rumors about her intentions and motives. They're all over the news, painting her as this like poor older woman who could not find love, and that's why she sold her country. There was also, she was unhappy with her promotions and service conditions. That's why she sold the country. I mean, most likely that she was, seduced.
Giuseppe.
Yes. It might be that, but like at some point, I don't think the motives matter. At the end of the day, she sold the country.
Yep.
And she was caught and she was sentenced to 3 years in jail. So,
That is right.
yeah. So, Raghavi, what did we miss?
Okay, one major thing that we did miss. We found out that she passed away.
Yeah.
So it turns out she actually passed away in May 2021 when she was 64 years old. But the story only broke out in October 2021.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why there was a delay. Maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to publicize it. Her family maybe didn't want to talk about it. We didn't really investigate that much.
Yeah.
But we do know that Madhuri suffered from diabetes for a very long time. A couple of articles that we had read had, people commenting about that, people that were close to the family at least. We actually don't know if this was the cause of her death, though. We just know that she had been unwell.
Yeah.
We don't really know the immediate cause of her death. But this is kind of sad because it's somebody that at the time we covered, presuming she was alive. And we only found out much later that she had passed away. So that's kind of heavy. And I don't know what to do with that information, dude, honestly.
Apparently, even her lawyer had no idea. Even he found out
Yeah.
like a month or two after she actually passed away.
Yeah.
So
He's the
that's
one who
kind of-
said, I think she suffered from diabetes, but he also wasn't sure what the cause of her death was. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode, of course, was definitely special to us because it was one of the ones where like we had created a reel. It was the time that we was like together in Bangalore and we had created a reel which had like
On Instagram, by the way.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
to
230,000 views, which
Yep.
was insane. We had no idea how this was happening. And surprisingly, a lot of hate, man.
Yeah.
There was
That's
a
true.
lot of people like, how can she sell, hang her, this and that. And we just like, calm down.
No, we just said go listen to the episode.
Yeah.
Like I think people probably didn't get that we were promoting an episode that was already
Maybe.
out. Actually, I don't know why they didn't get that. It was literally in the description of that video. So just read. No, but I think we just got quite a bit of oddly disproportionate hate for that, as if we were promoting what she was doing. But
Yeah.
again, I'm a big fan of context, and context is everything. So just go listen to the episode and you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah. And it was also like the first time that we got hate comments on our YouTube. It was, so basically there's this guy called Blue Moon who wrote
Yeah.
in saying, it's so annoying. I couldn't take it after 3 minutes. These ladies are so crazy. And I was like, you know what? Let me listen to how much he heard and why did he get pissed off? And that's when I realized, that's when the joke that we made was how like while you were scripting, you instead of Madhuri Gupta, you wrote Madhuri Dixit.
Yeah.
And it was that joke. And after that joke, it was barely into the disclaimer. And after that joke, he stopped listening. So I just have one thing to say, Blue Moon, I'm glad you stopped there because we get so much worse.
Yeah, we really do. Jokes on us in both cases, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah, but that was our first YouTube hate comment, and it was both jarring and we kind of enjoyed it also because at the end of the day, it's attention. Who doesn't like attention?
Moving on quickly. Go, Raghavi.
Oh, yes, right. Who's next? Durga Bhabhi. Durga Bhabhi was a freebie episode for us because she was an Indian freedom fighter, actually, and a revolutionary. Was she really a criminal? Yes, also, yes, because she built bombs. Okay. So she became one of the few women ever quoted in history as being part of the independence movement, and particularly the revolutionary version of it, which is largely suppressed in a lot of our history books. We always learn about Bhagat Singh, but he had an army supporting him. So where are those guys? So she was fondly known as Durga Bhabhi by her fellow revolutionaries, and she did so much. She did everything. She helped Bhagat Singh escape the British forces. She set up these bomb assembly plants. She smuggled guns and also would buy guns. Like she would go do a shady deal in an alleyway to get guns, and of course also she tried to assassinate a British official. And she did all of this pretty much entirely by herself. If you go listen to the episode, you'll we have quotes of people who knew her, and it's very, very clear that she was pretty convinced that this was her life. She was going to do this. So like I said, is the stuff that she did actually still a crime? Yeah, it is. But it's the kind of crime that makes your heart just swell with patriotism. So that's a weird feeling that you get while also trying to balance it with the fact that she was actually violent and revolutionary. So she also received very little recognition for what she accomplished. She finally passed away at the age of 97. She made it through, of course. She saw India get independent. She passed away at the age of 92 on 15th October 1999 in Ghaziabad.
Yeah, one of the things that was, I think this was one of those episodes where we were finally able to get into unscripted banter and unscripted things. One of the things that kept coming up was her birthday, which was on 7th October. And in the end of the episode, we were listing out the things that she doesn't have. And one of those things included that, we don't recognize the day that she was born because we do for so many of the other leaders. And I was like, I think I've mentioned her birthday more times than anyone else, which was just kind of a fun unscripted moment for us, which is devoted to revolutionaries at the Allahabad Museum, which was really happy and exciting news for us as well.
That's true. I don't know when I'll ever get to see it because will this pandemic ever really fully end? We don't know. But yeah, if you guys are around and at the Allahabad Museum, if you get to spot this wing when it opens, let us know. Send pictures. You would love to see that. Yeah. We also uncovered some of her lost letters. Well, we didn't personally uncover it, but we found material about it. These missing material, all those letters are lost, by the way. They include 7 sort of articles that are written by Durga Bhabhi in 1938. And each of them talk about the ups and downs in the HSRA, which was the revolutionary organization that she was supporting, in their history. And one of them was on Rafi Ahmad Kidwai, which is pretty cool. I mean, she clearly knew a lot of these folks. She was there throughout the HSRA's founding. And this is primary eyewitness accounts from someone who was right there building the bombs to make the HSRA's manifesto happens. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so apparently she had given these letters to a Sudhir Vidyarthi. He is a well-known writer for writings on the revolutionary movement. And he mentions that there was a Ranjit Singh from Bareilly, and apparently now he's called Ranjit Panchale. He had taken these letters from Sudhir to make a copy and then apparently they just never returned them. So yeah, many people have raised this and been hey, give the letters back or whatever. Even Durgavati Devi herself has been can you please return those letters? But he just has not bothered to reply. In fact, he's categorically denied having it, and he's even called her a liar. So finally she wrote to Sudhir saying that, hey, I've asked for these letters, but it's just not happening. And till she died, unfortunately, she just never got to see them.
No, so I know this part of the story. I just didn't know where the letters eventually did go. But Sudhir had also published a book containing a collection of about 848 letters of historical importance by revolutionaries and stuff like that. And in that collection, apparently, is the letter that Durga Bhabhi sent him saying, bro, what? And this is dated 30th October 1985.
Yeah, that's the last time that she attempted it. So there's just some guy out there who's maybe hiding these important letters, which are, I mean, it's national property at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah. To which.
So that's just not cool. I think that now, I'm sorry, but effectively belongs to the public. So
yeah.
as someone who pays tax,
Yeah, man.
give it. Give it. But I think the next person we had covered on the podcast was Hasina Parkar. We were shaking in our boots
Oh, yeah.
as we wrote this script. And every time we were like, we can say this, no? Yeah, freedom of speech and stuff like that. Question mark. Ew. And the thing is, so the reason that we were a little worried about it is because Hasina Parkar is, of course, Dawood Ibrahim's sister. And she took over the Mumbai leg of the organized crime syndicate of Dawood Ibrahim in, well, it's across the country, but she handled the Bombay leg of it. So she actually was considered by some accounts to be more violent and brutal than her male colleagues. So yeah, we are still terrified that we are covering the recap of this episode also. So quickly, let's do updates and go.
There's no update. No, I didn't hunt also that much, just saying.
Fair.
But the only thing that I found was Ankur Bhatia, who was reminiscing about his time acting as Hasina Parkar's husband in the movie.
Oh, in that movie with
Shraddha
Kapoor, right?
Yeah. And like, 4 years since the movie or something like that. Now it's just like, buddy, no one remembers your movie. No one remembers you. Goodbye.
Oh, no. I kind of liked his character. I mean, it was very brief because Hasina Parkar's husband obviously gets murdered in real life.
So he was barely in the movie.
That's it.
And he's still that now I'm taking his word with even less value than where we started.
Oh man, I think a little right after this was the Seema Parihar episode.
Yes, that was a pretty fun episode for us to do. So Seema Parihar was kidnapped at the age of 12 or 13 by a much older man who wanted to marry her, and she ended up spending her life in the jungles and valleys of Chambal, and she would eventually start her own dacoit gang.
Yep.
She is alleged to have killed about 70 people, kidnapped hundreds of people, looted dozens of homes for almost 18 long years.
Yep.
There are a lot of interviews that she's done as well afterwards, and she says that her choices were inspired by Fulan Devi in many ways. Even at the point where she gave up the life of dacoity to become a member of the Samajwadi Party.
Right.
She had planned multiple rehabilitation programs for former dacoits. She pushed for uplifting women and girl children because that was something that was quite personal to her in a way that she was always kind of upset or not happy with the way her life turned out, and so she wanted to make it better for others. In June 2000, she surrendered before the Aureia police, and they slapped about 30 cases on her, for which she was acquitted for about 15 of them. The fun part was that in 2002, some filmmakers wanted to make a film, as they do, by virtue of being filmmakers. And the pivotal role of Seema Parihar was played by Seema Parihar.
What? In and as?
Yeah.
Seema Parihar.
is pretty cool. So at that time, there were a bunch of cases on her, and Allahabad High Court had to provide special permissions to allow this. This would not be the only time that they would allow that, because in 2010, she was on the show Bigg Boss for about 11 weeks.
Yep, that's right.
This is one of my of this episode. The song that we had done, the musical recap, is one of my favorite songs. I sat on my terrace in my flat in Chennai, and I was writing the song. So I really liked it.
But I like all your songs.
Hey, so cute, yeah.
It is. What is not as cute though was I don't watch Bigg Boss consistently because, like you said, you said I watch it in parts, okay, where a meme springs up for that season.
Right.
And I'm like, I should know this, otherwise I won't understand all the memes on Instagram.
Raghavi, what is this behavior?
Hey. So that's the kind of exposure that I have to Bigg Boss. But for this episode, obviously, I went and I Googled it, and I got several personalized ads after that, because that's just how that works. And there was this one scene where she is with Sameer Soni, and they were talking about how they became good friends, right?
Yeah,
So they were sort of talking about how the rest of the house treats her a little unfairly, and they keep calling her Daku,
Yeah.
like literally a dacoit, And she talks about how she felt really hurt by that, and that was quite sad. I felt that was really unfair because on the show she seems really nice.
Yeah,
So
quite fun.
Exactly. She seemed
Yeah.
quite chill and stuff. She also did a lot of interviews to change her image. Sort of interviews, she sort of provides like a lot of details about how she had kidnapped people and even shot at policemen. Okay,
Whoa.
she talks about all this stuff, but I guess she was being honest, so that's in a way a good thing. There was also, by the way, a 20,000 rupee like award for anybody who captured her. Essentially,
Oh, damn.
yeah, and but she still figured out a way to get into the city, get a hospital to help her give birth and have a baby there.
Yeah.
And one thing that really contributed to this was the fact that people knew of Seema, but they had no idea what she looked like.
Right.
Yeah, that's really it. Yeah.
Cool. So on that note, I think it's time that we took a break, because coming up after the break are like 3 of like the most stellar episodes, or the 3 of the most stellar women that we have covered in season 1. So come back after the break.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. What kind of brands do you want to look out for in 2022? Hear great insights from Meeta Malhotra. She's the founder of The Hard Copy, and she joins Varun and Suchita on Think Fast. On GBCD, Farhad and Sunetro are celebrating their 100th episode. They reflect on the journey so far and what this podcast means to them. On Marathi Kirkitun, Dr. Rajiv and Manik Deshmukh discuss human intelligence. On The Habit Coach, Ashton is in conversation with the smile designer Dr. Real Gomez. They discuss various habits around oral hygiene and health. And on Cyrus Says His Cock and Bull episode this week, comedian Abhijit Ganguly, Cyrus and myself discuss Section 144 being back in effect in Mumbai, Steph Curry's popularity, and a whole lot more. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Go check out our YouTube channels. We go live on a whole bunch of different things. We have a number of different channels. You can find them on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, CoinSwitch Kuber, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you for making this possible.
And welcome back after the break. So just before this, we were talking about Seema Parihar. And now we're going to talk about what was essentially our favorite episode to research. Like, it was hard, okay? This episode was not easy to research. You have heard me complain about the Ministry of Corporate Affairs on the podcast. But the thing with Indrani Mukherjee's episode is we actively ignored everything and just focused on the financial fraud. And because now we had numbers, we had facts, we had so much like concrete information from a lot of news articles. The script was tight. The song was amazing. Nisha did such a good job. And Indrani herself is quite a badass. So yeah, we really enjoyed going bamboozle to everyone. But also the Forex scam itself, we thought it was really, really captivating compared to, a murder. Of course, the murder has other implications. It became sensationalized. It took over, the country. But the Forex scam really is the beginning of all of this. So it was important for us to cover it. So Indrani Mukherjee, for those who didn't know, she was a woman who, along with her then husband and media mogul Peter Mukherjee, they co-founded this thriving media empire in India. It spanned news, TV, music, many more genres. You would know it as INX. And that's the company that they had. They were doing a great job with it.
Yeah, and in 2009, the company was investigated for a series of controversies. This included like employee turmoil and then just a bunch of like financial crimes. Indrani and her husband were accused of fraud, money laundering, and violations of the foreign investment laws.
Yep.
Also accused in this were the then finance minister and his son, the Chidambarams.
Oh, yeah.
In a not so surprising turn of events, because Indrani was sly as hell, she snitched on all of them and she got her name removed from this particular charge sheet.
Yeah, and she is in jail for other reasons. Will she be covered in this season, next season? I don't know. We're being cute about it. But yeah, what's going on with the INX case now? So very recently, there was a plea made before the Delhi High Court where Chidambarams were basically, they wanted to inspect certain documents in the INX media case. The CBI initially said, no, this is pretty much closed. And the Delhi High Court said, no, dude, gotta dismiss this plea. So that's where that went. Actually, you know what? I need to stop saying no, dude, or yeah, bro, when I talk as the court. I feel like that's not acceptable at all.
So we don't really have too many updates on this particular case because Indrani's name is wiped out from this. But her daughter, the other one, Vidhi Mukherjee, she published a book called Devil's Daughter recently, and the book offers like Vidhi's perspective on the Sheena Bora murder case and you know how she coped and all of that. She was 17 at the time, living with her parents.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe we'll talk about that, some other time.
We should, because if Vidhi Mukherjee has written a book about it, and I don't know if we ever cover the other stuff, then that would essentially be like
A good
that'd be a
source?
pretty primary witness. Yeah, we should definitely read that book. Yes.
Yeah. The next episode that we did was on Kannagi. So this was the first time we took like a small detour from an actual woman to cover someone who may have been fictional. So Kannagi is the main character of the Tamil epic Silapadikaram, which is a poem which has a total of like 5,730 lines. It means the tale of the anklet. Raghavi tried to read all of it, but it was hard. It was also in Tamil and like the translation was hard.
Yeah, it's impossible. That said, please look up the English language translation.
Yeah.
Especially the scenes that depict the blossoming love story between the two characters. It is genuinely harrowing. Or you might be into it and there's no judgment. I'm cool with either.
But here's the TLDR version as fast as we can. I'm going to take a
Good luck.
big,
Good
deep
luck.
breath and do this. Okay. Kannagi marries Kovalan. They are in love. Kovalan falls out of love, lusts after Madhavi. They have a kid. There's a whole story there. Madhavi falls out of love with Kovalan. So Kovalan goes back to Kannagi, who has surprisingly not fallen out of love with Kovalan.
Oh, okay.
They both, however, do fall out of love with the Chola Empire and they head down to Madurai for job opportunities and maybe to fall in love with each other again.
Oh, that's okay. That's nice.
Not done yet. Kannagi
Oh.
offers her anklet to Kovalan to sell and start a business, but it falls into the wrong hands.
Oh, no.
The evil jeweler of the queen, who cannot believe what an opportunity fell into his lap.
Good for him.
The jeweler falsely accuses Kovalan of stealing the queen's anklet, which kind of looks like Kandagi's. The king is like, okay, and then chops Kovalan's head that falls
God.
to the floor.
Okay.
Oh, there's more.
Okay.
Hearing this, Kannagi is furious and she marches to the king with a mob and says, have the marbles fallen out of your head? She breaks her anklet and rubies fall out. King is like, suck it with your rubies, mine has pearls. Breaks his anklet and Raghavi,
Rubies fall out.
rubies fall out.
Oh, I'm really surprised I remember the story because when we were working on it, I was really confused between the pearls and rubies. And there was a draft where I just wrote diamonds. And you were just like, what? Just ask your mother. She knows this whole story. Rubies fall out. Grief stricken, this king realizes that he has messed up Kovalan's life. He falls to the floor and immediately dies. Kannagi, meanwhile, is just like, this is not enough for me. And she just walks out into Madurai and furiously orders everybody to set it up in flames. And
Yeah.
the city just burns to the ground. Oh, she then just sort of walks away into the forest where she meets Kovalan, I guess,
Yeah.
or a ghost version of him. And
No idea.
or they go up to heaven. This ending is a little
We're not sure.
slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very different in different versions. But we do know that she sort of ascended to heaven with Kovalan or wherever it is she met Kovalan, and then
Yeah.
they kind of lived happily ever after in the afterlife.
Yeah. Actually, because she goes across like multiple kingdoms and even she ends up in Kerala, there are like so many different versions of this story. So
That's
yeah.
true. That's true. I mean, to be fair, it was just one giant chunk of like landmass, right?
Fair.
It was the political borders we have today for states, which is primarily linguistic, did not exist then. So
Yeah.
that's how it is. Also, this is very, very cool. Okay. So when we release this episode, somebody on Instagram who listens to our podcast reached out to us and mentioned that she also did a shoot on Kannagi, in that she's a Tamil woman who is dressed as Kannagi.
Yeah.
And she did a series of photos as that. And she's pictures where she's holding her anklet and pointing at the city, you know, and she wears her sari so well. It looks really, really good.
Yeah. So there's not really much updates that we can give to this story, but we just definitely want to shout out to Vikram Singh, who commented on our YouTube post and said, Silapadikaram and the power of chastity in quotation marks. And we were like, okay.
Yes, that is the takeaway.
Yes.
Not that the woman burned down this city.
Not that one. No.
It's
Chastity.
the other one.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
On that note,
Yes,
this is the
Raghavi,
last-
take us through to the last episode. Let's do
Yeah,
this.
man. Yeah, we really should. So Shabnam was our last episode for season 1. And it was quite a yikes
Yep.
episode. It was a struggle to get through it. The research, the reading, the writing, in that I'm very glad I started 6 weeks prior to actually scripting this episode. We actually wanted to end on the note of murder because he started with a murder.
Yes.
So we thought we'd end on that, which in hindsight, we realized it was easier to do for Malika because it wasn't as well covered in the media, you know, at least
Yeah.
the more gruesome aspects of it.
Yeah.
Shabnam, however, because it was far more recent, we had a lot of details, including things like autopsy reports, right? So it was really, really hectic for us. Shabnam was, of course, she's still alive. She's a woman who, along with her lover, killed her entire family, all for property and in the name of love or whatever that was. She killed them in cold blood. Her father, her mother, 2 brothers, her sister-in-law, her cousin and her nephew was all of 10 months old when he was killed.
Yeah.
So for all her awful crimes, Shabnam was, of course, sentenced to death. She did, of course, turn on her lover during the proceedings because I guess she couldn't get any lower than that. So that's where that went. And the thing is, she also did have a son.
Yeah.
His name is Taj. And among all of this, the person who really suffers the most today would be Taj.
Yeah.
We don't have any further updates on this. Where we ended at in the podcast, wondering whether she's actually ever going to get hanged, is the ending we still really have. There is nothing else to update here. It's depressing as it is.
And on that wonderfully depressing note, that brings us to the end of our 13 episode recap. But what we do want to point out, like, what did we miss of at the end of this recap? Well, we missed a bunch of shout outs.
Yep.
And we're going to run through this quickly between Raghavi and me. Shout out definitely to Varsha, Soni, and Disha, who love our podcast and send us encouragement every day. It's so heartwarming. Thank you so much.
It really is. We also want to thank Nisha's friend Supraja. She listens into the episodes every Wednesday when they release at 7 a.m.
That's crazy.
The notification that I get from Spotify is at 6:45 and I wake up only 2 hours later. So that's really awesome. Thank you, Supraja.
Now, this one is not related to season 1, but when we had covered the episode on Noor, there was Salim who had told us about how he visited Dachau and he sent us images of Noor's dedication there. And we may not go there anytime soon, but it was really nice to virtually travel with Salim and take a look at that. Also,
That's
his
true.
wife's name is Noor. He mentioned that to us. So
That was
yeah.
really sweet. Of course, we want to thank Adeline, who, you know, for lack of a better phrase, she really pimps out our podcast to everyone that she knows. She is a boss. And every week she comes back to discuss it with us. So that's really, really cool. Thank you, Adeline.
Thanks also to Ayan, who listens to us and whines and whines and whines about censorship and all the jokes that we couldn't put in. Hey, man, we
That's
don't want
true.
to die.
That's fair. I agree. We also want to thank Govind and his dad who listen to the podcast on separate devices, even though they live in the same home. And I like to believe it's because it'll get logged as 2 individual downloads and not because they have different schedules. So, yeah.
Also, Sindhu, who said it felt like she was having a conversation with us, which is exactly what we want the podcast to be. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yep. Yep. Also, someone who reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, she said she tries to go into work every Wednesday just so she can listen to our podcast on the way. And as someone who was PMSing on that day, I was a wreck when I read that. That was just, I cried and I ate so much chocolate.
Also, Harsh, who so sweetly told us that if we ever pick Kangana Ranaut as a subject, we can easily do one episode per season, which I feel like is a lot of work, but I guess if that's what the people want.
And if that's what Kangna wants to put out, we're
I
buying.
swear. We actually get a lot of like requests or like people telling us that, hey, the musical recaps are kind of fun and, it'll be funny to listen to. And maybe can you put it out as an album or something like that?
Yeah.
It would be awesome if you could write to us and let us know if that's something that you would like, or is it just, something that our imaginary friends are telling us?
Just let us know. We would love to do it. But really, it's only if there's something that you guys want.
You know what's something that they would definitely want, Ragini?
What is it?
It's a best friend musical recap.
Yeah, let's do it.
We brought you thieves and murderers.
Malika, Troiloko, Seema, so many.
Our favorite money launderer.
Indrani, you devil.
Revolutionary who was hard to track.
Spies and dacoits are not easy to catch either.
And Mumbai's underworld was whack.
No comment.
Yeah, fair. It's misconduct.
It's misconduct.
We told you all about women that suck. Things that made you say,
What the?
it's misconduct.
Woo, okay, that was the first. Well, that's the second time I've had a
Yes.
chance to sing on one of your little musical compositions.
It was fun.
I felt very cute the whole time.
We really had fun doing this episode and shouting out to you guys, but we want to engage with you more. We want to know your stories. So please write to us, tell us stuff, tell us how much you love us, tell us how much you hate us. Instagram
Yes.
algorithm, pick it up either way. But if you do engage with us and if we do give you shout outs like this in the future, we are very happy to give you goodies. So write to us and then also mention that you want IVM goodies because we will give them to you as long as you're in India.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, guys. We haven't figured out how to ship to Azerbaijan yet, where we understand we do have a listener. That is nuts. Also, of course, leave reviews for the podcast. We would really appreciate it. I mean, we've been doing really well with word of mouth so far. But reviews, I think right now you can do Apple and Audible. You can also, subscribe or like or heart or however you want to do it on a bunch of the other podcasting applications. But please do that because that sort of engagement sort of pushes us up into another algorithm, because this entire existence is just algorithms. So please make it happen.
By the way, you don't have to be listening to us on Audible to review us on Audible. You just can log in with your
Oh.
Amazon account details and review us. So
That's true. So please go for it. Do that. If you do leave us a review, we might not be able to identify you, but we will give you so much love from the inside.
yes, we will. But if you want to reach out to us directly, we're there on Instagram. We love listening from you guys as well. You can catch me on Instagram at just.nishful.thinking. And you can get Raghavi at ragi.dose.
That's exactly right. And of course, for all the episodes that we've done so far, we do have sources on our blog for all of them. So please go ahead and read that. We know you're not reading because you should have asked us questions by now. So go read that blog. We put that for you guys so you have things to go back and look up and see if you find something interesting. So hopefully you get a chance to do that.
We know that this was more of like a chill episode because we're setting you up. The next week's episode is going to be ridiculously depressing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So we will see you on the next episode of Misconduct.
See you guys.
Given the unprecedented times our nation is going through, where positive is now a dreaded word, Smile India gets you delightful news from across the country about people and places that continue to spread the much-needed hope and positive vibes. I am Shifa Maitra, and you can hear Smile India with me every Thursday on the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Oh, and did I tell you Smile India is available in both English and Hindi.
Remember the days when our granny used to narrate once upon a time stories? Let's bring back the good old days of moral stories with Storytime Tamil. Hi, I am Ravishankar Balachandran, host of Storytime Tamil podcast. I would like you to entertain and educate your children with stories from Storytime Tamil. Tune in to the new episode sharp at 7 p.m. every day on IVM website, IVM podcast app, YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast from.